Lowe's and I guess any of the lumber companies type things would still sell those. I mean, but they're much better these days. But mine still works, so and that Dremel again back before the war. I've had that one for a while. All right, so this is where we're going to. Let's get this down to round. All right, let's see if we're round now. Yes. All right, so now I need a 1/2 inch tenon on this end. And there are just all sorts of ways that I could do it. Have you ever put your tool right here to start a cut and it went and ruined the whole piece? I have too. So there's another way you can do that and it won't ruin the whole piece. Take your tool and don't start here. Turn it this way and start, well there, it did it anyway. Just darn. And then I can make a shear scrape cut with the end of the tool. Look at that. And I think I made it smaller than a 1/2 inch. But let's see if I did. It looks a little smaller. Yeah, that's a little bit on the sloppy side. Okay. Now remember we said we need to sort of relate the top one to the bottom one, and I had an angular cut. Now sometimes I'll do an angular cut, sometimes I'll do a curved cut where it joins, but since I did an angular one on the other one, then I'm going to have to do an angular one here. So I've done my little angular cut, and then let's go ahead and take some of this waste wood out. And remember I said I like to do a little double. So let's kind of sneak up. Can't take too big of a bite with the detail gouge. Now this last cut, you want to make sure that that cut is clean and crisp. And so check it before you go on, and yes, that looks nice and clean and crisp, and we're not going to touch any sandpaper to that because we want that sharp edge there. And I'm using, when I'm cutting to the right, I'm using the tip on the right to move to the right. When I turn and cut to the left, then I'm using out here toward the tip, but slightly to the left of the tool, but I am riding that bevel. Now, if you notice, I've also got a second bevel here, and the reason for that second bevel is if this tool were sticking out here a little bit further like that, then it's possible that my tool would mar the wood in that little cove that I'm working on. And so it's nice to come back and cut that secondary bevel. Now, we don't have a grinder here, but most of you use a Wolverine grinding system. And you know, you set your tool into that little V slot, right? I mean, you know, you set that little Wolverine thing in there. Now, what I do is in that little V slot, which is about, what, 2 inches long, after I have ground my primary bevel, then I slide that little point of the Wolverine jig up to the front of that V groove, and then I grind that second bevel. Now, one of my friends brought me a piece of wood, and he said, here, put this piece of wood in, and then you can, and I went, no, I'll just move it forward. I mean, on my Wolverine system, it has a little piece of metal across there so that it won't, I mean, it contains it either coming or going. And so I'm coming and I'm turning and I'm going and I'm doing it. And so And one guy brought me a 2-inch measuring stick so that I could insert the tool 2 inches, and I said, on my table where my grinder is, I took a marker and a ruler, and I went 2. And so I go 2, come, go, turn, turn. Okay, guys, I'm just trying to simplify things for you. And I want to tell you, engineers, it's okay, because I'm married to an engineer, but you're over-engineering things sometimes. Okay, let me see if I can make this little cut. Now, I did not bring them, but I actually, at my age, have found that I don't see quite as well as I used to. And I wear those magnifier eyes sometimes, you know, when you're doing little cuts like this. But that also requires that you bend over, which is not good. And again, we want the top to be as thin as possible, because the eye is going to have to travel into the globe, and we don't want some big huge thing at the top here that's going to distract. So we're going to take this on down. And I think that needs to be a little thinner yet. There we go. Now, at just about this point then, I would take this and sand it and put my finish on it. I've got about a little over 1/8 of an inch of wood still connecting me to the waste block. And I probably could just go ahead and I could just use this tool to work my way on down. I've got to leave a little over 1/16 of an inch, because remember, I've got to drill a hole in the top. So you can't just make it a point, because you've got to drill a hole up there in the top of this little fella. All right, so I want that cut to be pretty clean at the top. You know what, I didn't take that off. I meant to. I like round ones. I like pointed ones, because I don't know why I made that one pointed. I just did. But yeah, I like with the little balls on top. I like that look too. I do. Yeah. Okay. Now, I'm going to take my skew, and I'm going to make a little tiny divot so that when I use my drill press, it'll have a little place to seat itself. Okay? So, has our ornament gone around already? Oh, okay. All right. This I think is going to be a little bit loose on it, but we were going to see if it kind of looked like it matched. Yeah. Let me see it just for a moment, and then I'll go ahead and pass. We're just going to see if these... Yeah, it's a little loose. Darn. Okay.
Good.
Yeah. I actually think the ornament's a little big. The globe is a little big for it. But there we are.
Now, what color would you do something if it was...
I'm sure I would never leave this just white. I'm sure I'd get out my pyrography machine and I would start doing all sorts of stuff on it. Drawing some sort of little designs on it. Now, it's got that little bit of gray on it, but I don't think that's enough spalting to warrant just leaving it like it is.
Question about the globe.
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming you hollow the inside out. How thin do you try and go and get that?
Now, see, this wood is such a lightweight wood that this is very lightweight, even though it's a little it's a little thicker at the bottom, probably 1/8 of an inch. You know, when you're making globes, do you have trouble judging how the thickness at the bottom? I do. We'll go ahead and they haven't seen this yet, so we'll just go ahead and pass that around to them. And I'll show you a couple of little things here, little tools that I use. Here we go. Shoot, I didn't bring my thickness gauge, and we need that tomorrow for our class. I did bring my depth finder, though. As I say, I don't over-engineer anything. This is a piece of clothes hanger wire from an old clothes hanger when the wire was really thick. And the only scientific part about it is the set screw right there. But then I took a marker and I marked it off in inches so that I can stick this in whatever I'm measuring. And then when you stick it inside and set the screw, and then you come out and bring it onto the outside, and then you can tell from the outside how deep you are. And I find this is what I rely on in order to see how deep I need to go. And you know, that's not too far off. I'm within a 32nd of an inch of how thick it is at the top and how thick it is at the bottom. And so if it's a little thicker, hey, I'm putting a finial in there and nobody will ever know.
Janice,
Yes, sir.
how do you hold your globe when you're hollowing it?
Okay. Okay. All right, well, we're just going to have to pretend that this piece of wood is 2 inches in diameter. And again, I'm not going to turn a tenon on it, but I'm going to have my regular size jaws. And then I'm going to make sure that my blank is square. And I'll go over to my bandsaw and I will square up my blank, and I will start usually I'll start at about 2 1/8 of an inch so that I've got a little bit of leeway in turning it if I want it to come out to be 2 inches in diameter. The blank would be shorter, 2 inches by 2 inches by 3.5 inches, maybe 4, 3.5 to 4, and then I'm going to mount it straight into my regular size jaws square. I mean, I'm going to leave I'm not going to turn a tenon on it. I'm just going to mount it square. And I have found that anytime I can mount something square as opposing a tenon, I do. It holds better. I mean, because you've got those corners sticking out there. I mean, it can't twist. It can't go anywhere. And I have dovetail jaws. Those of you that have, you know, I for years I just had the one-way talon that had the compression jaws, and they are not nearly as grippy as a dovetail jaw. I regularly will turn platters or bowls or things, and I'm only turning a little, and I like to expand into my bowl or platter rather than forming a tenon, and you only have to turn it maybe 1/8 of an inch deep if you've got a good set of dovetail jaws, and expand into it, and it will hold it securely. You know, I've never had any trouble with it. So did that answer your question? No.
Once you turn your globe and you're trying to hollow it, how are you holding the globe?
Well, well, look, we're going to turn a little globe. This is a little bitty globe, okay? Have we got time for us to kind of do that? Okay. Okay, so there's my blank. Let me just stick it right back down into the heart of this here, as far as it'll go, so we won't get much vibration.
Yeah, while you put that together,
Mm-hmm.
after you get your top done, drill a little hole in there. What kind of rings are you using?
I use, and I'll pass these around too. Move this so I can bend down. I've got to find them first. Here we go. I order these online, and there are different companies that handle them, and like one time one company will have them and another company won't, and then the next time they do and the other one doesn't. But I use the little 1/8 inch ones. Am I in the right place? Okay, there we go. I use the little 1/8 inch brass rings, and then this is I believe this is an 8mm jump ring that I get from Hobby Lobby, Michael's, Joann's, the little jump rings. And then I just run the little jump ring into that loop, and then if you've got Christmas tree hangers or however you want to display them, then I used to tie little ribbons on them and little gold cords, and I have found that I like this. I think it's just a little simpler, and I like the look of this better. And that little tiny drill bit that I had in my Dremel fits these, but I do take a little bit of wood glue, and before I insert this into my finial, I'll just dip just the tip into my wood glue and then screw it in just to be doubly safe, so that it won't pull out.
Have you ever tried the Finials?
I have, and they work beautifully. I just have I ordered like 100 or 200 of these, so. Yeah, the fish hooks, but you've got to do some cutting but yes, they look beautiful. They do. But since I've got these and you don't have to do anything with them particularly, then I use them. All right. Well, this is going to be a real big hole in a little bitty. Don't tell. Okay. I just had to.
Where do you get those bits with
This is from Craft Supply. Yeah. And I just take a marker and I just mark right on here. I mean, I've got my 2 inches marked here. But see, this drill's pretty true. I didn't mark my 1 inch, though. I think I know about where 1 inch is. Okay, that's got to be enough. Okay. All right. My diameter is about 1 inch, so if I'm going to make a round one, then I would come here and I would mark 1 inch, and then I'm going to mark the center. And so that I know that I don't let it grow on me, I'm going to take my parting tool. And now, because I have done this before, I've turned the right-hand side of the bead and the left-hand side just gets bigger and bigger and longer and longer. I don't know if you've done that before. So this way, that can't happen because I've already put a mark there. I should have used my ruler. Now, when you're turning beads, the right-hand side is pretty easy. You know, you can just sort of, so you start with an open flute, and then you're going to roll the handle so that the flute closes, and then as you go around the corner, you're going to move that handle away from your body. You cannot turn a bead, and you know when you're turning work, they say put the handle here and keep it there. Well, you can't turn a bead like that. Your hand must leave your body in order for you to turn a bead properly. Okay? Oh, I was going to remark my pencil line so that y'all could see. Okay. And then we're just nibbling away this little corner. I'm not going to cross that line, though. All right. That looks pretty decent. Now, in order for me to have enough room on this side to turn my bead, I'm going to have to take away some of this waste wood. And I'm going to need to part that down a little bit. Part that down a little bit more. And I can already tell you that I'm kind of looking oval here. I didn't use my ruler. But we'll go with what we've got. Am I answering your question, sir? Okay. Now, I'm going to nibble on this side. Now, here's where the problem comes in for you right-handed bead turners. When I get ready to do this one on the left-hand side, remember I said your hand has to move away from your body. You've got to roll the tool over and then move the handle away from you in order to make it circular, curved. And normally there's somebody standing in the way when you get ready to make that. So you've got an option. Shorten your handle. Notice how short my handle is. And actually, I wish the metal were only this long. I would be happier with this tool. And I keep working and grinding it down. But this tool has a particularly short handle on it so that I can complete this bead. Now, before I start hollowing, I'm going to turn this down to about, 2/3. You know, I've got to have enough meat left here. But remember, I've got a real big hole in there, so I'm going to stop there and show you what I do to hollow. And I'm glad I brought at least one hollowing tool with me. Now, when I put in a hollowing tool, I check, because I have different ones, to make sure that I'm just about at center. You don't want to be below center. And if you're too far above center, it's not going to cut very well either. Now, just put my little tool in. And I just begin that hollowing process. And I was just horrified a while ago to find out that I did not bring my clothes hanger depth or wall thickness gauge. Have y'all seen those? You know, where you take the little hanger and you bend it so that it's got a little opening and you can insert that in and see how thick it is. So in our class tomorrow, we may have to find some clothes hanger to make it the depth gauge. But, okay, we don't know how deep we've gone. So, we're going to check the depth. We're going to see how deep I've gone. I can also see I'm not really round either, but that's... Okay, I've gone halfway down. And that's going to have to get a lot rounder. That's not going to work. How did I miss that? I guess I just looked at that side. All right, do I need to proceed with this, or do y'all pretty much okay. All right. And then, once I've hollowed it and I've used my little depth gauge and I know I'm where I need to be, then I'm just going to open up more space on the left and then complete the bead until I've, then can part it off completely.
I run into trouble.
Right, with the depth?
Running the rest of the bead around,
Uh-huh.
invariably I will cut through the wall because I've hollowed too deep.
You've hollowed too much, so you're not using your,
Or either that or it's too thick.
oh, yeah, I tend to go too thick as opposed to too thin. Once or
Just
twice
not
I've,
that bad, but, you know,
mm-hmm,
adds a little weight.
yeah, yeah. Okay, any other questions about either of these processes or about the use of selecting colors, selecting woods, selecting designs? Okay, then I'm